Welcome to Smart English Stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more English stories. Hi, my name is Olivia. I want to share with you some secret tips to help you speak fluent English. When I was younger, I struggled a lot with English. There were days when I couldn't understand simple words. It felt like I would never learn, and I almost gave up. But then, I found some tips that changed everything. I remember a time when I had to speak in front of the class. My hands were shaking, my voice was low, and I felt everyone was staring. I made many mistakes. After the speech, I went home and cried. But the next day, I decided not to give up. I told myself, every mistake is a chance to learn. One tip I discovered was to practice every day. Just like how we eat food to grow strong, we need to practice English to improve. I started talking to myself in English. It felt strange at first, but slowly, it became normal. I would look in the mirror and say simple sentences, like, "Good morning. How are you?" This helped me gain confidence. Another thing that helped was listening. I would listen to English songs, and even though I didn't understand all the words, I liked the sound. Slowly, the words began to make sense. I would sing along, and it felt good to speak the words, even if I wasn't perfect. One song I loved was "Imagine" by John Lennon. I didn't know the meaning at first, but after listening many times, I understood it better. There was also a time when I met a friend named Lucy. She spoke fluent English, and I felt nervous talking to her. But Lucy told me, "Olivia, don't be afraid of mistakes. Every time you make a mistake, you learn something new." Her words gave me courage. From then on, I would speak English even if I made errors, and each time I became better. Reading also helped me a lot. I started with short stories and children's books because they used simple words. One book one loved was about a little cat trying to find its way home. The words were easy, and after finishing the book, I felt proud. Slowly, I moved to bigger books. Reading made me see how words are used and helped me learn new phrases. Writing is another secret tip. I would write my thoughts in a diary, but in English. Some days I would only write one sentence, like "Today was sunny," but other days I wrote more. Writing helped me organize my thoughts in English. It was like having a conversation with myself. Another time, I joined an English speaking club. At first, I was very shy. I didn't want to speak because I thought people would laugh at me. But when I finally spoke, everyone clapped. They told me I was brave, and that made me feel so good. After that, I practiced more and more in the club. It became fun to talk to others. Sometimes, I would feel frustrated. Learning English wasn't always easy. There were moments when I felt stuck, like I wasn't improving. One day, I sat by the window, watching the rain, feeling sad. But then I remembered a quote I had read: "Every storm will pass, and the sun will shine again." This reminded me that hard times don't last forever. Talking to people was also important. I started chatting with my neighbors and friends in English. Even if it was just saying hello or how are you, these small conversations helped me. Every word I spoke made me more confident. I also asked them to correct me when I made mistakes. One day, I was at a store, and the cashier spoke to me in English. Normally, I would panic, but this time, I smiled and answered. When I left the store, I felt like I was flying. I couldn't believe I had spoken English so easily. It felt like all my practice was paying off. Watching movies also helped. I would choose movies with subtitles so I could read along as the characters spoke. This helped me understand how words are pronounced and how sentences are formed. One movie that helped me a lot was The Lion King. I watched it many times, and each time I learned something new. During my journey, there were people who laughed at me. They told me I would never speak good English. At first, their words hurt. But then I remembered something my grandmother used to say: "Don't listen to the voices that bring you down. Follow your own path." So, I kept going. Their laughter only made me work harder. Another tip is to think in English. At first, I used to think in my native language and then translate to English. This took a long time and made speaking difficult. But then, I started thinking directly in English. If I saw a tree, I would say to myself, "That's a tree," instead of translating. It was hard at first, but with time it became easier. I also made flashcards with new words. Every day, I would learn 5 new words. I would write the word on one side and its meaning on the other. Before bed, I would look at the cards and test myself. It became like a game, and I enjoyed learning new words this way. One of the most important tips I found was not to rush. Learning English is like planting a seed. You have to water it every day, give it sunlight, and be patient. Slowly, it will grow into a big, strong tree. There were times when I wanted to learn everything quickly, but I learned that taking small steps was better. I remember a time when I was asked to give a speech again. This time, I wasn't as scared as before. I took a deep breath, stood in front of the class, and spoke. I made a few mistakes, but I kept going. When I finished, everyone clapped. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. Another thing that helped me was watching the news in English. Even if I didn't understand everything, I would listen carefully. Over time, I started to understand more and more. Listening to the news helped me learn new words and understand how English is used in real-life situations. There was also a time when I had to write an essay for school. At first, I didn't know how to start. I felt stuck. But then I remembered one of my favorite quotes: "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." So, I started writing one sentence at a time. Slowly, the essay came together, and I was proud of what I had written. Talking to myself in English became one of my best practices. When I was alone, I would describe everything I was doing in English. For example, if I was cooking, I would say, "Now I am cutting the vegetables." This simple habit made speaking English feel more natural. One day, I met a person who spoke many languages. I asked him how he learned them all. He smiled and said, "Practice, patience, and love for the language." His words stayed with me. From that day, I tried to love the process of learning English, even when it was hard. I also made friends with people from different countries. We spoke to each other in English because it was the only language we all knew. This helped me practice speaking and listening in a real-world setting. Every conversation taught me something new. Even though I've come a long way, I still make mistakes sometimes. But now, I don't feel bad about it. I know that every mistake is a lesson. There was a time when I mispronounced a word in front of a group of people. Instead of feeling embarrassed, I laughed and asked them how to say it correctly. This made me feel more confident, and they were happy to help. As I continued learning, I realized that learning English is not just about knowing the words. It's about understanding the culture, the expressions, and the way people communicate. This made me appreciate the language even more. When I look back at my journey, I feel proud of how far I've come. There were many struggles, but each one made me stronger. The tears, the mistakes, the embarrassment, all of it was worth it, because now I can speak English with confidence. But remember, this journey doesn't end. Even now, I'm still learning. Every day brings a new word, a new lesson, and a new challenge. And that's the beauty of it. There's always more to discover. So, my message to you is this: don't give up. Keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself. You can do it, just like I did. And one day you'll look back and realize how far you've come.